Welcome. Coach Andy Owen joins us again on this week's episode of Leadership Synergized. I hope you had a chance to gain the advice and the experiences Coach Owen shared with us last week. Coach, thank you again for sticking around and coming back for week 2 in that aspect. Very much appreciated, my friend.
Thank you. It was good to talk about some meaningful experience that I've had, and anybody that sees any of those as successes, makes me proud.
Certainly a lot of successes. For those of you maybe just joining for the first time, I encourage you to go back and catch Coach Owen's episode last week. As an introduction, Coach, you serve as an assistant superintendent for a large school corporation, the Evansville-Vanderburgh School Corporation, located in Evansville, Indiana, a city in the very southwest tip of the state of Indiana. How long have you been in that role?
I have been in this role for 7 years now as kind of a district leadership. My role as assistant superintendent has only been finishing my second year in that. Came down as the director of athletics and then moved into the role of assistant superintendent, still keeping athletics under my title. And then the second part is talent development. So I'm a part of the recruiting and retaining of teachers and employees, which not only the teaching profession, but everywhere, recruiting and retaining is very important.
Talk about that talent development, especially, I know you and I have talked a bit off camera, but in this world today, in this 2024, the availability of interest, the willingness of individuals to come in as an educator isn't today what it once was. What kind of challenges do you have there today in that role?
I think my challenges are reaching out besides the traditional pathways to enter. You are correct. There are less entering the education the traditional way with the 4-year school. So I don't know. I look at it as not as education's a bad pathway. Again, I'd challenge people to think that there's so many other opportunities and interests for people. So I'm not going to throw a negative light, but the numbers do say that there are less entering. So looking for pathways as far as transition to teaching and other opportunities out there for people to enter the workforce as education would probably be one of my challenges. But the opportunity to meet right now with those great students that did choose this profession, they're in our universities that have a passion for working with others, that want to make a difference in a child's life with the most rewarding profession there is in this world, the ability to relate with those that are in that and tell them about the opportunities with EV. I absolutely love the task and the job that's been given to me, and I'm going to continue to work with my team to provide this great world with wonderful teachers.
Thank you for reiterating a very critical point. While there are more touch points and maybe a lot more noise that's public today around the educational sector, the opportunity to serve from the heart and soul, to build and grow and develop each child in an individual manner, but as part of a team that focuses on that, such as you have at Evansville-Vanderburgh, it's no different today in that opportunity than it was 100 or more years ago.
Yeah, I work for a great leader in our superintendent, and I'm a pretty positive, competitive person that's always seeing the glass half full. And we want to bring the best because we know that's what our students deserve. And you can't listen to the noise. You said that. Of course, there's a few people on Facebook. The people that love it, we don't probably use our voice enough as what we should. Because I'll tell you this, I'm in our schools and I see the smiles on our students' faces and I see the dedicated teachers on a daily basis. And maybe they're worn out because of the hard work they're doing during the day, but they don't go to Facebook every night or write articles to editors. But I tell you what, there's a lot of wonderful people doing great things in education, and I'm just so proud to work with those. And I'm going to continue to champion those, and I'm going to stay positive because, again, I know that it's the greatest profession that there is, being a teacher.
And for those of you that don't know Coach Owen, this may be your first introduction. Let me tell you, this isn't just a camera, Coach Owen. Coach Owen is this positive and focused and consistent every day, regardless of whether he's writing his dissertation for his doctorate or he's getting an athletic stadium ready for a Friday night football game. Coach, thank you for that consistency. It's so important as a leader to have consistency. And many times with tasks or things that come at us, some within our control, some without our control, it can be difficult to sustain that consistency. The people around us look for that level of intention and consistency. Talk about you, Coach Andy Owen, the leader, the educator, when it comes to sustaining that consistent focus that you just described. How are you able to do that, my friend?
I think the experiences and the people that I was so fortunate to be a part of and grow up around. Obviously, my family were teacher and coaches, but and their influence was greater than any. But not that, just my teachers, my third grade teacher, my fifth grade basketball coach, my youth baseball coach. Those experiences shaped me, and I think that not one to let anybody down. The family with some history here in Evansville that have all been teachers and coaches set the bar high and maybe the expectation, and just wanting to see others achieve and not do anything to ever to let down anybody. I think that's what made me hungry, or made me want to do my best.
Coach, how old were you when you first recognized that you were going to be an educator?
Early on, because of just sitting at restaurants with grandparents and seeing the relationships that they had with people, being in town, seeing the life that it provided for me. We might not have had the largest house in the neighborhood, but by God, we had a pretty good house. And I was just so fortunate. And my parents were both teachers. I wasn't a doctor's salary or anything like that, but I was happy growing up, and I saw that my parents were happy, and I saw how rewarding this profession could be. And that's where my heart was in education. It was teaching and coaching, because I think coaching is teaching and teaching is coaching. They're hand in hand. And the ability for that extended classroom after school and to spend even more times and have more influence on students was something I wanted to do at an early age.
So, Coach, finish this statement for me. If Andy Owen had not been an educator, he would have been
probably a business. I looked into business. I shouldn't lie. 1 year in college, a lot of the people, there weren't very many of my people on my football team at University of Indianapolis and my classmates in the education profession thought about business and lawyer. I thought about practicing law, and I was going to do business administration and then try to get into law school. If I wouldn't have been a teacher, Andy Owen maybe might be practicing law, miserable somewhere. And all I can do now is just laugh and smile and say, thank God I was blessed to be in education, because every day is so rewarding.
Thank you for the honesty there in that piece. I very much appreciate that. Coach, having known you now for a number of years as you were working towards your educational doctorate, and during these two episodes, something that jumps out at me as I hear your passion about education and about the blessings you've had in your life. You come across as someone who's been learning, becoming self-aware, but just continuously wanting to grow from a young age. How have you been able to stay true to that belief, to be a lifelong learner with the promotional opportunities you've had, the leadership role expansion, and the greater responsibilities you've had? How can someone be successful in that regard in today's world with all the responsibilities they may be bringing on as they move up or along the organizational ladder?
A growth mindset, lifelong learner, exactly what you said, always challenging yourself to know that I'm not where I need to be or where I want to be, to have a mentor such as Dr. Smith that challenges you to always put the student's interest number one when making a decision. And sometimes I think that's a challenge in itself, because you want to appease the adults. But to have a mentor that's challenging and always of a growth mindset, I think that's what has put me in a situation to hopefully want to continue to grow. Taking on a doctorate and taking on an EDS wasn't something that I took lightly. But again, it was a challenge. And when I sit in the room in the EVSC with people that have done those things, and I see that they can speak from their growth and their learning, and taking on a doctorate is not something easy at all. Like you said earlier, I'm a pretty positive guy. I won't tell you that sometimes during that doctorate experience, I might have felt like I was down 42 to nothing at half. But I went out and we rallied in the second half and we competed. We might not have won, but we went out and played and took care of business, I guess, is what I would say as far as the doctorate win. And I just feel like lifelong learner. And that proved that more than the athletic field for me. You talk about the power of influence, and in athletics, it's been amazing. And to being called coach is the greatest thing. And more people probably still call me Coach Owen than Dr. Owen here. And it's still his greatest compliment. But being able to, the knowledge I gained through that, and the ability now to think not only as an athletics, but as education and what we can do for a community, that was the task at hand. And I'm very glad that I had some mentors and support along the way to be able to help me to reach that, because now I'm looking more than just a athletic standpoint, but more of a school systems approach and how we can help students and teachers.
Coach, you talked a lot about the impact your parents have had, your grandparents, and you mentioned the support system you've had at home throughout your career that has been very successful. Again, outside of those groups of individuals, who's someone that jumps out at you that has really meant a great deal to your development and the opportunities you've had to be where you are today?
Again, I've mentioned it before, but for Dr. Smith to take a chance on a football coach and put him in a opportunity to lead, that was great. And then my former coaches, my little league baseball coach that kept me out on the mound and gave up like 13 runs in one inning, and I'm out there crying. But Coach Miley wanted me to learn not to sulk out there and be a leader, and life sometimes tough. And I remember sitting out there on the mound, and they just keep scoring runs, and he's keeping me out there. I think there's a lot of lifelong experiences, whether it's my little league baseball coach, whether it's the superintendent I work for now, all the wonderful teachers and coaches. EVSC has a great team of leadership. You mentioned Dr. Underwood before, Darla Hoover. There's some very, very good leaders within the EVSC and teachers that I work with every day. Just all those meaningful experiences have put me where I am today.
You are exactly right. And just for clarity, Dr. David Smith is the superintendent at Evansville Vanderburg that Coach Owen is referencing. But you've had some outstanding individuals about leadership team like Dr. Brian Perry, who moved to South Gibson School Corporation recently. And I know an individual from the Evansville schools just moved to MSD North Posey as their superintendent. There's a strong succession focus I sense within EVSC and the executive leader.
Yeah, and I couldn't be happier for both. Dr. Perry actually was a football coach of mine, was an assistant underneath my father when he first came to Evansville, and had a long relationship with him. And his success at Gibson is not surprising at all because of the type of man he is and family man, and he's in a great district. So really proud of him and excited for Mr. Slagle at North Posey. I know that he'll do really well. He was a leader within our district, and now he's up for the challenge of taking on a district on his own. We take that as a compliment within the EVSC that districts around this area are reaching out for leaders on our team, and we want to see them be successful. You got to work together in this, and there's no doubt that we're working with these districts again to keep hopefully the student centered as the most important point for all of our decisions.
Coach, he's there, right? For those of us who at times believe life is going to be easy, leadership is going to be easy, being an educator is going to be easy, we find we're on a slippery slope. I think it's John Maxwell that points out that life's an uphill journey every step of the way if we're truly focused on living a life of significance and providing value. But share with our viewers and listeners a lesson maybe that you learned that in the immediate window of time when you were learning it was a bit tough for you, and then how you came out of that.
A lot of times I'm going to put that in the employment part of it. Not every job was I ever given that I've ever applied for. I've been very fortunate for a while to be in good situations where I've put myself in situations where I could attain those positions. But going back to getting out of college and wanting to be a coach, but there weren't any opportunities and having to volunteer. I think the hiring process, timing is very important. I'll go back to, I believe, 2007, and I had been an assistant coach for probably 6 or 7 years, and I was ready to be a head coach. And we had just finished my brother's senior year. He and his classmates were extremely talented. We were ranked number 1 in the state, 10-0, and we got upset in a sectional for the only loss of the season. And great year. But I just knew that I was ready to be a head coach, and I was ready to look into that opportunity. And silly me thought that a single community was for at that time the right way to go. And I applied for the head football coaching job at Vincennes Lincoln. I remember the principal there was Mr. Chapman, and he was amazing. And the superintendent, I believe, was Dr. Rose. And I wanted that job. At least I thought I did. I was down to a finalist there. I remember going to the last interview. There's just 2 of us, a local amazing person that was a former athlete in that school and a great person, and myself. And just decisions like they only had special education open. And moving to a new community, I remember I might have hurt myself at that position right there. And they probably chose the right person anyway, and they knew. But I had decided that if I was going to go in special education, even though that's where my heart was, to go to a new community, that there was only going to be, I wouldn't have interactions with the kids. The class size were small, and where that's such meaningful work, to lead a program and to have an influence in community, I needed to be with a large amount of students, and they didn't have a PE or health opening at the time. So that was a problem. But leaving that, knowing that the other person got the job and thinking that, well, what am I even going to be a football coach and what am I going to do? My dad ends up retiring a month later. Maybe that put the pressure on him to show him that I was for real, and took a chance on me. And I think that whether you're applying for whatever job, obviously the competitive nature, you want that, but God has a plan and things usually work out. Tough times don't last. Tough people do, those type of things. You stay in there, and gosh, not getting that job at Vincennes Lincoln and where my life is now might have been the best part that ever happened to me. And nothing against Vincennes Lincoln. They made a wonderful choice, and best of them. And that process was amazing for me. But think of how things could change just on that decision, and very blessed where something didn't work out for me, but in the long run, it was the greatest thing.
I love that story. Thank you for sharing, Coach. And it brings back an experience that I have learned through the maturation process of life that God has blessed me with. And that is basically this. When someone asks me, hey, I'm thinking about applying for this job, and it's a promotional job, whether it's in education or not, it's maybe an expanded leadership role. My first question is this: are you ready for that job? And what I'm looking for is this, because I've learned this, similar to you in my younger days, many decades ago, the past 3 or 4 decades, the response was, yes, I'm ready. But what I learned in life, it's a yes, no answer. Yes, I believe I'm prepared if I'm truly interested in that role. But there's a no, because I can't be prepared for everything. You don't know. And COVID's a great example, right? Imagine the new leaders who just accepted new roles with expanded responsibility a month before COVID hitting. We don't know what's ahead of us in that piece, but that's the exciting aspect. That no isn't to be defeated that, hey, I shouldn't apply, but we need to recognize, because I think that yes and that no together really allows us to align as children of God, that it's not going to ever be about us. It's going to be about others and about the challenges ahead of us that we don't know what they even will look like.
I agree. Couldn't have said it any better. You work for others. People want a voice and the ability to listen. The challenges are ahead, but the ability to listen. There's a difference between hearing them and listening to them. I think your coworkers, your friends, your family, they know when you're actually listening. And listening shows that you care. And when people know that you care, great things can happen.
You're exactly right, my friend. And that's exactly the point of why this man has been so successful and had the opportunities, been blessed with the opportunities that he has had. Coach, we're coming to the end of our second segment. And again, from the bottom of my heart, I just appreciate you. But before I let you go, what's next for Andy Owen?
What's next for Andy Owen is I'm going to continue. I think it's important to do the job that you have right now to the best of your ability. And obviously, there's always personal goals and admirations. But you know what I want to do? I want to recruit and retain the amazing teachers that we're going to bring into the EVSC. And I want them to be here, and I want them to be successful. I want to see them here for a lifetime, moving into roles and taking on their children and growing up in this great city. So I'm going to recruit and train the best. I'm going to be passionate about going about doing that every single day. I'm going to work for a great superintendent. And like going to the athletics part, our coaches got to know the goals and the purpose. We want to win districts. We want to win championships. Those are our school corporation's goals. Absolutely, we want to win. But we're never going to lose sight of our purpose, and that's developing young men and women that are going to be successful. And that goes back to my goal at Central. We want to give our student athletes the best experience. We're pretty competitive in that. We might not beat you, but nobody's going to have a better experience than us. And finding the right people to do that is important, and finding the right people that can stay passionate and motivated about it, because it's a tough job. That's what's next for Andy Owen. I'm going to continue to do that. I'm going to enjoy my family, and be very blessed and happy to do what I'm doing, and always looking for challenges, and who knows what's in the next 5 years.
Coach, for someone watching or listening, maybe they're interested in EVSC or talking to you about the talent development and being considered, or maybe there's something you've said in these 2 episodes last week and today that they want to build and get more of your knowledge on. How do they find you?
First of all, my email it's on the Vanderbilt School Corporation. It's Andy, ANDY, Owen, OWEN at evsck12.com. And cell phones, 812-449. I'd be past anybody that's a part of your community that wants to talk has to be a great person. They can have my cell phone, reach out. I think a lot of it is relationships and collaborations. I'm sure I can learn just as much from them as they can learn from me. So feel free to reach out, anybody, mention the podcast, and thank everyone for listening.
Coach, any final words of wisdom you'd like to give to those growing and developing leaders out there today, be it as educators, coaches, or otherwise?
Again, I think being a voice for all, thinking about access and opportunities for everyone involved. And the key part is listening. And you're going to go far with building relationships. Finding the right people to take care of content and those type of things obviously is very critical in education, but leading with the right people and relationships and showing people you care, great things can be accomplished.
Coach, my friend, I appreciate you. I'm here for you anytime you need anything. And I love you, my brother. And we haven't talked about love in that context, but if you're watching and listening and you can't feel the love from this man and what he's doing, but also the people he serves and his family, and quite honestly, a strong man of faith and the love for our God, I encourage you to go back and listen because it's there in every word. And it's been there, Coach Owen, since I first met you many years ago. It's been there in every word that we've ever shared with one another. You're an impressive leader, and I know there's a bright future ahead. And EVSC is so blessed to have you as a member of Dr. David Smith, Dr. Underwood, and the entire executive leadership team. I'm very proud of you, and I know there's much ahead in success and significance that you're bringing to that community.
Thank you. I have the same mutual respect for you. And honestly, what you said, it means a whole lot to me. I am pretty passionate about students and life in general and this great world.
Coach, thank you for giving up this part of your spring break. Make our apologies to your family if we've taken you away from them, but you've brought a lot to us. I have taken a lot away, a great deal. My toolbox is overflowing because of the past 2 weeks of conversations we've had with this great man, Andy Owen. Coach Owen, thank you for your time, and God bless you, my friend.
Thank you, Dr. Smith. I appreciate it.
Thank you all for tuning in and watching. And again, on Leadership Synergized, we want to introduce you to some awesome people, God's people, educators, coaches, leaders, manufacturers, writers, leadership developers. We've had a number of individuals. The one thing they have in common is the passion for serving, and they're here to serve you. I encourage you to reach out to Coach Owen. Maybe you don't want to be an educator today, but after talking to this man, you may spend the next 30 years doing so. And I know he'd love to help you get there. Leadership, life doesn't have to be lived in a rush. I've stumbled, I've fallen, I've went backwards because I've rushed too much. We need to be still more often. When we are, we move forward in the right manner, and we bring love, knowledge, and value to everyone around us. Thank you for joining. You mean the world to both Coach Owen and I. God bless you. We love you.